some trying to.
Oh, no, I closed it.
I think it was in the. Yeah,
This is
I can run the side and just like that.
Good thoughts. No, nope.
It was just me. I was over on the edge.
Namanda, 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 Namanda.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Danny Terrell. I'll be the chairperson for this morning's service. We will begin this morning's service with Sambujo on pages 24 and 25.
Idom
We will now have sutra chanting, Juseike, on page 93. Please stand for Gatha Nembutsu 1 on page 169 in the Purple Book, and remain standing for reading of the Jodo Shinshu Creed number 1 on page 12.
Jodo Shinshu Creed, page 12, number 1. All together. Entrusting the vow of the Buddha and reciting the sacred name, I shall proceed through the journey of life with strength and joy, revering the light of the Buddha, reflecting upon my imperfect self. I shall strive to live a life of gratitude, following the teachings of the Buddha, discerning the right path. I shall spread the true Dharma, rejoicing in the compassion of the Buddha, respecting and aiding one another. I shall do my best to work towards the welfare of society. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. Please be seated.
Now Reverend Dennis will share a Dharma message with us.
Namanda, 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 Namanda. Good morning, everyone. Ohayo gozaimasu. Nice to be able to have service together, and especially honored we have Superman here listening to me, so very good. Yeah. Today we just, this week, Thursday was the final class of our fall Buddhist Education Committee series of classes. We had 4 classes and talking about practice in Buddhism. So thought it would be fitting to talk about practice today to all of us here, okay? Not everyone was able to participate in the class, so just to share a little bit about what practice is in Buddhism and in Shin Buddhism, okay? So lots of times people come to a Buddhist temple or are interested to come to meditation sessions, okay? So they come, and oftentimes I'll get a phone message or someone comes, oh, I didn't know we had a Buddhist temple here. When are your meditation sessions? And so in Shin Buddhism, that's not one of our primary practices. So we recite Namo Amida Butsu, we do chanting together, and we do a lot of eating together. That's one of our main practices, okay? So we don't do a formal sitting meditation. You know, some of us do, and some temples offer it, and it's kind of like we don't want to say, well, we don't do that and have people leave. We can sit and meditate, but that's not one of our primary practices, okay? So, and other times you might read articles about Pure Land Buddhism, and it's for the peasant people, not these highly practiced Buddhist, right? And so just to say Namo Amida Butsu and join together, it's kind of like people are more devotional and not seriously practicing Buddhism, okay? And so okay? But at the same time, these temples, Buddhist Churches of America, we have temples throughout the United States. We're the longest standing organization of Buddhism in America. And so we have a lot of history, not only teaching Buddhism, but going through so many difficulties first immigrants coming here, settling into our communities, and then going through the camp sessions where people were removed from their home and placed in camps, and all these things, historical, sociological, racial prejudice, all these things are intertwined in this practice of Buddhism. So there's more than just what is the Buddhist teachings, what do we do? There's a lot involved. So when we look at, in general, Buddhist practice, there's like 3 bodily actions: bodily, oral, and mental. Okay, so meditation is focused on bodily action. So you're sitting quietly, and this nembutsu and chanting, it's more of an oral practice. Okay, but each of them, both sitting bodily, you're sitting to quiet and settle your mind and your body. And when you chant and when you say the nembutsu, you're trying to quiet and settle your mind and body. So the effort is the same, different direction, but the effort is the same. So in one of the books we use, Reverend Ken Tanaka was asked, what is practice in Shin Buddhism? What are we supposed to do? And so he's explaining that when we come, listening, monpo is the Japanese word, to listen to the Dharma. So we come here and we listen to the Dharma. And this is one of our primary practices, to be able to listen. And sometimes we don't. We try to listen, but we don't. Or sometimes we have other things on our mind. Just yesterday we had a funeral service. I led a funeral service, not here, elsewhere. But sometimes you go to a funeral service, and if it's you that lost your parent or child, you are listening intently, and your heart is just ripped open, right? And so you listen. But if it's your friend's uncle's service, you don't listen so closely. So depending on your situation, you might hear the same talk 2 times, 10 times, and you don't catch the gist of it. It depends on how you listen and what's going on in your own mind, in your own life, okay? So these kind of things occur as we try to listen to the Dharma, okay? So here, as we listen, chanting together, we kind of internalize these Buddhist ideas, and then we practice by living together. When we eat together, we're preparing the food together, we're cleaning up together, and there's this harmony in action that's going on. And this is Buddhist practice. So sometimes people who are intent to meditate, sometimes I tell them, it's very easy to think you're enlightened sitting alone in a room on your pillow, But when you get in traffic, when you're working with people are pissing you off, then that's the test of a Buddhist, right? So this interaction becomes very, very important, okay? So we all know of other types of Buddhism. We've heard of Zen Buddhism, and in Zen, their main practice might be meditation. So we have this image of the Zen Buddhist or their practice hall. Everyone is facing the wall, sitting in quiet meditation. Okay. In Shingon Buddhism, they have these finger movements, and they do these different mudras. This is part of their practice. And if some of you watched the film we showed a couple months ago, Carving the Divine, there was a Shingon priest, and he's doing these fire pujas, right? And he's piling sticks, and they're burning, and this is part of his ceremonial ritual, okay? So at the same time, the priest is doing this. We're not doing this. We're not each starting a little bonfire by our feet. Like, we don't do that here, okay? Nichiren Buddhism, okay? They might be chanting, it's called the Daimoku Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. So this is a chanting tradition too. But it's kind of geared differently. Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, they say the more you say this, the more material benefit you will receive. You're looking for a promotion. Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Say it more, say it more. Maybe you'll get that promotion, right? And I had a family friend, and he had practiced a long time Nichiren Buddhism and our connection. So introducing us, his father, my father, is a Buddhist minister, so he knows something about Buddhism. So the other Nichiren practitioners, and he's, you know, one of the leaders of his temple, and they happened to go to Las Vegas one time, and they're getting ready to go downstairs to the casino, right? And he's missing. Where did he go? Where did he go? So he wanted to find some quiet space to chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. So they found him in the closet of the hotel room chanting away, and I'm not sure if he won or not, but it's a very different way to practice Buddhism, saying you will get material benefit, right? You want a new car? Chant hard, right? And so here we do chanting, but it's not like a petitionary prayer. It's a different direction, and we'll get into that, okay? So we also hear about self-power and other power, okay? So self-power means we have limitations in how we act and behave, and we want to do better, become better people, okay? There's confusion in our acts, in our words, in our thoughts, and so we do these practices and kind of guided by our own power, our own calculation, and how we evaluate and judge our action, okay? So this is how we self-power Buddhists approach their practice. And here it's a different thing. We are recognizing, Shinran Shonin is saying, we have our limitation that we cannot get rid of. Even if we practice, we have greed, anger, and ignorance, the three poisons bubbling up all the time, and they return. Even if we do good for an hour, they'll return, right? You sit in meditation for an hour, you feel great. Then you get back in your car and drive across town, and you're pissed off again, right? It comes back, it comes back. And so he's saying, you know, we always have this residue of ego-centered, self-centeredness, and trying to do. So in Shin Buddhism, they're pointing this out to us repeatedly. We just read this to step beyond our calculation, our ego-centeredness, our selfishness, and to move beyond that. We read it every Sunday, but it's hard to do. Okay? So practice without calculation, without attachment, without striving. So what does that mean? It means practice beyond individual capabilities. So what the heck does that mean, right? What does this mean? How is this even possible? Okay? It means awakening to enlightenment comes from practice that I cannot do. So then what do we do, right? So this is where Amida comes into the picture, okay? Other, beyond the self, is Amida, okay? Not a deity, but all around us is Amida. And so this otherness has a practice, okay? So, and when we say Namo Amida Butsu, we are acknowledging our limitations, and at the same time recognizing there's more than me in this universe, okay? So there's Amida, there's this other reality here. And when we say Namo Amida Butsu, it's not just me saying something. I am recognizing this other reality of Amida. There's myself, and so there's another entity in our equation. It's not just me trying to do, okay? I become aware of my shortcomings, and I can see them because of Amida. Because I know the idea of purity, I know my impurity, okay? So they always say, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. I notice my limitations, my shadows. Why? Because there's a light. Okay, so this is the other that they're talking about, other-centeredness. Okay, so when we recognize this other, and we become comfortable to say Namo Amida Butsu, this is like the starting point. We are recognizing that there's more beyond myself, and so this other, the mind of Amida, the mind of reality, enters. It's not something I accomplish, not something I do or did. It enters when I stop trying, when I let go. Okay. So with all that background, I have a great story. Ready? Okay, this is about something called Kaihyo Go. Kaihyo Go. It's a practice that these Tendai monks do on Mount Hiei. So our founder, Shinran Shonin, he was a Tendai monk, and he practiced on this same Mount Hiei. Okay, and in modern times, this particular monk, Monk Hagami, he passed away in 1989 or something like that. But in modern days, in our lifetime, okay, and so he was of the Tendai tradition, and he wanted to complete this Kaihyo Gyo, okay, and this means around the peak practice, and so it consists of, they have a monastery on Mount Hiei, and 1,000 trips around the peak, and it takes 7 years to accomplish this meditative practice, okay? And for the first 100 trips, you can decide, do I want to do this or not? So it's very dedicated. You can't just stop. You can't say, oh, my mother got cancer, I have to go help her. No matter what, you continue until you finish, or when you start, they give you a seppuku, a little short sword. So if you can't finish, you disembowel yourself. You kill yourself. You don't return, okay? So this is taken seriously. So even you get sick, you're climbing the hill, you fall down and break your leg. It's not enough excuse to stop. One monk was doing it during World War II. All the Japanese men were asked to come into the forces, army and such, and he is doing this practice. So he stayed doing his practice. So that means even a world war is not enough reason to stop this practice. So very seriously, okay? They've been doing this for a long time. Only 46 people have completed this, okay? So during the first 3 years, so there's a monastery, and they go up the hill on different trails, and there's little shrines that they visit, like 260 shrines that they can go to, and they do ritual there. And I believe they wake up at 12:30 in the morning and begin at 2, and they do this route, 20-mile route, until 8 a.m. Then they come back and they do all their duties as a monk, okay? And so they continue this in addition to their regular responsibilities. So the first 3 years, they're doing like these 20-mile treks, okay, over rough terrain, over obstacles. And in the later few years, they're doing 50 miles regularly, okay? And so after 700 of these circuits, this Hagami sensei, he takes on this additional special practice, and for 9 days, okay, 9 days, in addition to everything else he's doing, you don't eat any food, like fasting for 9 days. You can't sleep lying down, so you could rest in a chair, but they don't let you lie down, okay? People are watching you to do this properly, and you can't drink water. Okay, 9 days, right? Usually you hear 2-3 days is all you can go. You're gonna die. But 9 days, no food, no sleeping, lying down, no water, okay? So not only this, while he's doing this, he has to draw water that's going to be used in the monastery. So he's getting water from the well, carrying it to the monastery to be used, and he can't have any of it, okay? So, you know, he's doing this, and there was a doctor that had heard about this monk doing this special practice. Thought, oh, maybe I can get permission and check on him to see what's actually happening with his bodily functions. So he would go regularly and check Hagami sensei. And on one of the final days, Hagami sensei was sitting in his chair and kind of slouched, and his eyes are closed. And so the doctor's looking and listening and checking, and he picked up his eyelid to glance inside, and his colleague is there. He's got no reaction. So, looks like Monk Hagami seems to have died. And so he thought the monk had died, but he had not died. He was aware of the doctor lifting his eyelid and looking inside. And so, but there was no reaction that the doctor could recognize, okay? And Hagami was 52 years old when he did this, okay? Another part was that he did this fire ceremony. It's called a goma ceremony, and they have these pieces of wood, half-inch thick by about a foot long, and 120 pieces, 120,000 pieces of wood, and he's stacking them, and they get to over 8 feet high, and it's lit on fire. It's outside, and middle of winter, right? It is roaring fire. The flames are jumping 10 feet higher than the wood, and so facing the fire, he's so hot, right? Just burning hot, and the back of him is just ice cold from the freezing cold that is outside. So these kind of extremes, and each of these extremes are testing not only his limitations, but kind of facing his own death. And each of these sticks are like recognizing that he has these limitations as a human being, this greed, anger, and ignorance. Okay. So he's going through all these things, and he had completed this journey. Fortunately for you, we don't do this here. Okay. Okay. So more than going beyond physical barriers and limitations, right? We hear about friends, maybe we've done ourselves, run a marathon or an ultra marathon, things that we test our physical being, and different things that we have done or endured. But this is more than physical strength, right? This is spiritual strength, spiritual awareness. And I think when we hear these stories, when we come to examine our own spiritual path, we come to recognize and we value what this spiritual connection is. So the Buddha said there are 84,000 different paths to awaken. And that means each of us has our different path, okay? So this Kaiho Gyo or Nembu Namanda Namanda. We have a choice, okay? Every path has its challenges. So Shindan Shonin said this Nembutsu path of Nembutsu recitation, this was the path of Buddhism that fit best for his conditions, okay? So now then we evaluate, where do we want to be? How does this Nembutsu practice work? What can not only how can I benefit, but how can my circle benefit? So from our family, to our community, to the world, to the infinite reality, we benefit by doing our Buddhist practice. Okay. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, Namanda. Thank you.
Thank you, Sensei, for your very deep, moving message for us today. Please stand now for Gatha, We Are One in the White Book on page 150, 150.
Listen to Amida's teaching.
Thank you to all of those who have helped with the altar preparations, with the service, to Reverend Dennis for his sermon. For YouTube, Brian Piper, who's in the back here, making sure everything goes smoothly. For the altar flowers, Jackie, Dorothy, and Lenny, our organist, Lenny, and for all those who brought refreshments today. Do we have any newcomers or visitors today's service? Yes, I see number one, Superman here. Could you please stand and introduce yourself?
I'm JB Goodyear. Been here, only here for several years now, since first time here.
Welcome, and okay. Yes. Okay. Welcome. Oh, great, great. Thank you for coming. For some announcements, next Sunday, November 3rd, is our Shotsuki monthly memorial service, after which will be the ABWA meeting. And don't forget, next Sunday is daylight savings time, so remember to set your clock back 1 hour. Otherwise, you'll be here for way ahead of us. On Sunday, November 10th, is the family service, and it's the birthday Sunday. Do we have any other announcements? Okay, so thank you very much for attending this morning's service. And now, Reverend Dennis. Sorry.
Yeah, can't let you go yet. So we have one more Ask Reverend Dennis. So today's the fourth Sunday, so we try to remember. Last month I forgot, and we were outside, so we had a change in our schedule. So we have an Ask Reverend Dennis session. As some of you who haven't been through this, you can ask questions, and one of us will try to answer those questions. Today I have received a couple in the email, so I'm going to use those. If you have questions, send them to me, and we'll line them up and try to get to them in future. I have plenty today, so one of them, okay, these are not so easy. So can you clarify Buddhist teachings and the soul? There's no soul because that would be extension of our ego. So if there's no soul in the Buddhist teachings, what goes to the Pure Land? Okay, so I think this is a question that comes up here. That it is said, when we pass away, we go on to the Pure Land. And so what does that mean? What goes to the Pure Land, right? And if they say there's no soul, then what is there, right? What moves to the Pure Land? And so, yeah, that's a difficult question to answer. And connected, I received a question also that when you go to, sometimes you go to a Buddhist funeral, Shin Buddhist funeral, and on the program, it might be said that so-and-so, Reverend Fujimoto, has passed away and has returned to the Pure Land, okay? Someone has, or the minister might say this, Reverend Fujimoto has gone on and returned to the Pure Land. So what does this mean, that he's returned to the Pure Land? Not just to go to the Pure Land, but to return to the Pure Land, okay? So earlier today, I was talking about this infinite reality, right? And so the notion is, this is where we come from, the infinite reality, right? So when we come and we take on this human form, we have our own identity, our own recognition. This is who I am. And we recognize the person we see every morning looking at us in the mirror, and we're thinking, what should we do now? I sure look good today. And we're thinking about ourselves. But our voice, that voice, we recognize, oh, that's me, that's me. But I think we recognize that voice because that's the one that talks the most, and that's the ego, right? When we come here and chant together, I think that chanting voice is the real me, connected to all other voices. Sometimes you can hear two voices while you're chanting, right? You're chanting Gagong Chosegan, Hishimu Jodo, and that other voice, it's still there, right? I'm getting hungry now. What should I have for lunch? And this voice is going on. And so there's two, your ego voice and your connected to reality voice. Which one's the real you? So I try to point out that as we do this Nembutsu practice, we open the door for this reality. When we come here and chant, something resonates with us. And we recognize this familiarity because, why? Because that's where we come from. We come from Amida. And when we pass away, we return to Amida. So this is why they say he has returned to the Pure Land. Okay? You return to where you come from. And this greater reality, not just some notion, not just some idea, but a reality. It moves with wisdom and compassion. And to recognize that is to make this Nembutsu practice real. To say Namo Amida Butsu, then my limited self is touching this unlimited other. Okay. So in that, in Buddhism, they say there's no soul. When you come to the end of your life, all your attachments to this world are stopped, right? Your ego-centeredness, your needs for love or food or water or whatever are no longer needed. And so this shell that the ego protects, there's no more ego because it has nothing to protect. So you are released and become one again with this infinite other. Okay? So in that sense, when we pass away, we become a part of this greater reality. It's not like we disappear, right? So we talk about often that we go to the Pure Land when we pass away. And the story is when you finally, after all your striving, you get to the Pure Land, you find that no one's there. Why? Because everyone who got to the Pure Land returns back to, becomes compassion and comes back to this world to help other people to get to the Pure Land. And so it becomes this movement of compassion. There's no you and me and Reverend Dennis and Sharman and Hiko, right? You don't have those identities, ego-centered identities anymore. You become this movement of compassion. And that's why this reality is not just an idea. It's alive and it moves. We become part of that movement. We are part of that movement, but we think of ourselves because of our ego right now, right? We came from that, we return to that, okay? So, kind of like that type of idea, right? Another word, okay? We hear often the Pure Land or Nirvana or oneness. Basically, these are same, okay? We become one with Amida. So there's this author, Kakehashi, Jitsuen Kakehashi, and he called this Amida Inochi, which means life flow. Life flow. Okay, so when you use this kind of word, Inochi, then it's more like sensing that there's a rhythm and a purpose and a life to it, okay? So he says this life flow pervades all things and all beings, including our loved ones, including ourselves, okay? So when we lose someone dear in our lives, they become part of this Inochi. We don't lose them. They are there. And we can talk to them. They can remind us, bring back our own memories, our own lessons, okay? So my father passed away, and they could say, oh, Reverend Fujimoto, Senior, has gone on, returned to the Pure Land. It's not like I want to go to the Pure Land to see him again, because that's his ego self and my ego attachment to him, right? But he becomes part of this movement of wisdom and compassion. When I pass away, I become part of that wisdom, movement of wisdom and compassion. I become part of him. I've become with him. You know, not in the sense that we were here, but same. So in this sense, it's maybe even more comforting, right? We become part of each other's life in this movement. And this movement of bringing compassion to all beings, to the world. This is the movement, the Bodhisattva ideal, benefiting self and benefiting others, right? We don't do something just thinking, what's in it for me? Often we do, but that's not a good way to do things, right? What's in it for me? What is the shared benefit for all beings? And we do. Whatever we do with all our heart. And knowing this, having this connection, our steps forward, regardless of what we do or where or who, have more meaning, have more depth, have more direction. So this is the Buddhist practice, okay? Okay. So I'm tired of talking now. So if you have other questions, please send them to my email and we'll put them on. And once a month, the fourth Sunday, we try to remember to have this session. It's always a lot of fun. Okay, please put your hands together in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Namanda. Okay. Let me relight the incense and we can come up to Oshoko.
Thank you, Sen. That concludes today's service. Please come forward and offer incense and join us in the hall for refreshments. Thank you.